Hello, my friends. Today we're going to talk about Tess Holiday. I made a video about her a few months ago, and it goes into more depth as far as like who she is, where she came from, that kind of thing. So I will put that in the corner here if you want to check that out. But she was the face, or like the poster child of the fat acceptance, body positivity movement. And I say was because it's pretty much done now. There are not very many people left that are spouting the nonsense that came from the fat acceptance movement. There are a few, but not many. In fact, there is a channel called Funtie Times who covered the health at every size fat acceptance movement when it was in its heyday. And she's actually back and did a video within the last day or two about kind of where are all of them now? What kind of content are they making? And it's really good. I'll put a link in the description so you can check out that video to get an idea of why it died out and what all these people are doing now. But Tess is kind of a holdover from that time. She's still kind of on this crusade to get the world to change so that she can continue eating the way she likes to eat. And she's pretty convinced that she's a celebrity. Now, she does have a following, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't follow her because they think she's like an inspiration or something. Let's not forget she went on national television and said that she had a restrictive ED. And then if anybody questioned her on that, she would just say it was fat phobia. So she gave a TED Talk, sort of. It's a TEDx talk. And if you don't know the difference, a TED Talk, like an actual TED Talk, requires that you have some sort of credentials or expertise in what you're talking about. TEDx, I am pretty sure anybody can just sign up and do a TEDx talk. And there are some TEDx talks that are just kind of stupid. So I know Tess thinks she's going to be doing something here, but given this like to dislike ratio, I would say it did not go the way she planned. And the funny thing is, I don't think this TED Talk would probably have been so bad if Tess wasn't known for being so smug and narcissistic and just generally toxic online. So let's just check out Tess Holiday's TED Talk. If you'd like to like and subscribe, that would literally be hectic. I'm not gonna lie. And just before we get started, in case you are new here or don't know who I am, I came across the fat acceptance movement when I was on my own weight loss journey. And I lost over 100 pounds. And while I was on the treadmill and stuff like that, I would watch YouTube videos and everything. And that's how I came across the fat acceptance movement and people like Amberlyn Reed and Tess Holiday and all that. So I vehemently disagree with most of what fat acceptance says because I have lost the weight that they claim is not possible to lose.
Growing up in small town Mississippi, I was a little girl with big dreams, a love for sparkle, and an imagination that took me far beyond my small hometown. Even as a child, I was told that my body was wrong, that I took up too much space, that I didn't fit the mold.
I know fat kids get made fun of, for sure. And I would say as a kid, that's their parents' fault. If you feed a kid enough that they are getting made fun of at school, stop feeding them so much.
Beauty, as I saw it around me, was something defined that I would never see in the mirror. And so began a lesson society teaches many of us, that in order to fit in, we must shrink ourselves. Picture this, 6th grade, I'm signing up for my first beauty pageant. I was so excited, but truthfully, I had no idea what I was up against. I looked around at my other classmates, and in their eyes, I saw it. I was the fat girl, the one they dared not to stand too close to. Being friends with me was a gamble. As they shared their interests, the other contestants said, gymnastics, Tweety Bird. Sorry, you guys, I'm so nervous, but I'm so grateful. Thank you.
So she's looking back at her childhood and saying what she thinks those kids are thinking, which who knows? You know, she was the fat girl, and I'm sure that she did get bullied and stuff, and that sucks. So as a kid, there's not much she could do. But at some point in her life, she should have and did have the opportunity to say, maybe I could do something different. And there is a fine line where you should be happy, but you should also understand that by losing weight, you will be more comfortable. You just will. You'll be more active. You'll be able to do more things. So life can be better if you do lose weight. But that's not really what this is about. This is all about beauty standards. That's all they care about. For people who say F your beauty standards and stuff, it seems to be all they talk about.
So we're going to rewind it back because I don't want to forget this part. Unable to find a dress within my size and budget, my grandmother hired someone from church to give me my Cinderella moment. The other contestants shared their interests, cheerleading, gymnastics, and then there was me. I like hanging out with my family, swimming, and collecting Tweety Bird. Silence. The crowd, the judges, no one knew what to do with me. I didn't place. That night, I learned a powerful lesson that I had to spend years unlearning.
Why would the judges care? Like, what is she talking about? See, this is when you have somebody like Tess, who is a perpetual victim and everybody's out to get her. That's the way she views the world. That's the way she views everything that's ever happening to her. So she goes up there as a kid, and according to her, by saying, as a kid, I like spending time with my family, swimming, and collecting Tweety Birds, the judges were like, what? Judges would have been like, oh, okay, cool. Nobody would have cared. So either she sort of internalized that they were being mean or judging her for having those interests, or she's just making that up. And then she says, and I didn't place. Well, a couple things. Number one, it was her first pageant. She didn't have any experience. So why would she expect a place on her first try? That just shows the entitlement that she has, that I know that I was awesome, so I should have placed. And so that just means maybe she just wasn't as good as she thought she was. But no, it has to be that she's fat. There cannot be any other explanation for anything bad that happens to her. It has to be because she's fat and everybody's discriminating.
That night, I learned a powerful lesson that I had to spend years unlearning, that I couldn't trust the voice in my head, that I didn't belong, and that society wasn't ready to see me, let alone celebrate me. But here's the thing. That little girl that stood on that stage is the reason I'm standing on this stage today.
I have a feeling it was a little more like this.
Hey, Goop, what's up? Cool binder.
Hey, Goop, want to come over to my house today?
They all hated me.
And think of what kind of mentality you have to say that they weren't ready to celebrate me.
And that society wasn't ready to see me, let alone celebrate me.
Have you ever thought to yourself, somebody should be celebrating you? I never have. Maybe I'm weird and everybody thinks that everybody should be celebrating them. But I don't know. To me, that just comes off as awfully, I don't know, pretentious maybe? Self-aggrandizing? I don't know.
Because belonging isn't something society decides for us. We can fight to decide that for ourselves. It took a long time. But as I grew up, I stopped asking why I couldn't fit into spaces I was told I didn't belong.
And this is the problem. They use this terminology like, I don't fit into spaces. Well, that's not a society problem. That's a you problem. If everything is built to fit the average person and you don't fit that mold or that seat or whatever it is, it's not that everything else in the world needs to change. It's that you need to decide if it's important enough for you to change.
Instead, I created my own space, my own path, and my own movement. 10 years ago, I founded F Your Beauty Standards, and it became a global call for change that was more than a hashtag. It was a movement for anyone who had ever felt invisible. I wasn't just shouting into the void anymore about self-acceptance. I had created a space where people like me could hear thousands of voices that relate to them and support them.
Now, in theory, that sounds like it could be a pretty good deal, right? Making people feel better about themselves, people that don't tend to fit into normal beauty standards and stuff like that. But a couple things, it was all for profit, which, whatever. But it ended up only really being for fat people. But think about what she's actually doing when she creates that F Your Beauty Standards. She's creating like an entire movement or fashion line or whatever to try and excuse the fact that she just won't take accountability for the amount of food that she eats. That's all it is.
People began reclaiming their right to be seen and heard, sharing images of their bodies, their beauty, and their power. Every post, every story was a testament that beauty isn't limited to a single standard.
I'm not sure how you can change people's perception of beauty. Is that what she's wanting to do? Is she wanting to make people think she's attractive? Because that's kind of what it sounds like. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense when you kind of start thinking about it, other than they just want to excuse their lack of willpower and lack of accountability when it comes to the food that they consume. They just don't like the guilt involved.
You see my journey from a small town girl imagining big dreams in a world that she was always told she was too much, to standing here today. It has taught me that change begins from within. If I had let their opinions dictate my worth, I wouldn't be here today. My confidence has brought me to places I never dreamt of, from billboards to boardrooms. Today, I am working with brands like Pinterest to help make their platforms safer and more inclusive by using AI technology.
And of course, when she says more inclusive, she means just for fat people. But think about what's happening, right? You've got somebody who is morbidly obese and is trying to normalize that and trying to make it seem beautiful or okay or great. And then working with brands to make sure that everybody thinks, yeah, it's totally cool to be morbidly obese. It is okay to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, with no consequences. But no matter what they say, there are consequences. Because while she's making a pretty penny from all this, there are a lot of people who are influenced by her who end up passing away or getting hypertension or heart attacks or diabetes or whatever because they've been told that not only is there nothing wrong with being morbidly obese, but it's beautiful, it's great. Come join the club.
I helped H&M create campaigns that showcase real body diversity. I've even stood before the United Nations to talk about why representation is essential.
And that was real stupid.
I mean, the fact that folks despise larger-bodied individuals roots back to racism. And until the country actually addresses the violence that, frankly, white supremacists and white folks are causing to people of color and the systems that uphold those.
So notice how she's basically just co-opting racism and comparing her experiences to basically being discriminated against for your skin color.
It's not been very popular to come out and talk about having my type of eating disorder publicly. It's impacted my career.
And just a reminder that the ED she's talking about in front of the United Nations is a restrictive ED.
Body and mental health issues aren't just about beauty, but a true global health concern. But for me, it was never about just being in the room. It was about making sure that others got there as well. Because my fight isn't just about body. It isn't even just about me. It's about a brave, fierce belief that our voices matter. They say a rising tide lifts all boats, and when we fight for ourselves, we also fight for each other, and everyone wins.
Oh yeah, she's fighting the good fight so that you can eat with abandon and then get mad at everybody else when you're faced with the consequences. Stay strong.
Like recently, I was sitting in a boardroom of a major global brand, the place where big decisions are made. I was there because they wanted to discuss with me how they could make the brand more inclusive. But as I looked around the room, there was one person remotely close to my size. Diversity can't just be a checked box. It has to be built into our foundations.
Ah, yes. What we need in these boardrooms of these large companies is more people who have zero self-control over the amount of food that they consume, to the point of basically immobility. That sounds like a real asset. It sounds like somebody who would make a lot of really great decisions.
Real change happens not just when we're in the room, but when we are valued, heard, and involved in the decision-making. Representation matters, and it changed the trajectory of my life, and it can change all of our lives.
So think about what's happening here, right? Just big picture, think about what's happening. What they are trying to do is change the world just so that they can stay their size and just so that they can continue eating whatever and whenever they want. That's just so weird to me. Imagine if they put that much work into actually getting fit and getting in shape. I mean, they would fit wherever they wanted to fit at that point, you know?
And it's a funny thing. When people ask me, how did you become successful? How did your life change in the way that it did? I nearly always say, delusion. And people laugh, like some of you. I know you're laughing, because it was funny, right? But really.
No, they're all like, yeah, delusion sounds about right.
Some people do think I'm a bit delusional to feel like I belong. But that so-called delusion is what saved me. It's what gave me the audacity to believe I could change things.
No, it's not that you're delusional because you think you belong. The delusion is that you are so addicted and so obsessed with food that you would rather do all of this, than just eat less and exercise some. It's weird, man.
RuPaul once said, "What other people think of me is none of my business." Those words became my armor. On reality TV, they say, "I didn't come here to make friends." Well, I didn't come here to make anyone comfortable. I am here because I fought for my right to exist and be seen. My body is an act of resistance, a reminder that I don't need society's permission to take up space, and neither do you.
Again, think about that. My body is an act of resistance. She's acting like she has crafted this body as a weapon against societal norms, but she just eats stuff. She just eats whatever she wants. That's the work that she has put into her body, is just giving no fucks and eating whatever she wants. And then expects everybody else to do all the work to make sure that she fits in.
You build your dreams on your own delusional terms. I had to believe in a world where I belonged and hold on to that vision until it became real. And there were so many moments that it did not feel real. Not when I was going to high school in an abandoned Walmart in Laurel, Mississippi. Not when I was going on model castings and they were telling me that I was too short and too fat as they laughed at me. And sometimes, not even now. Because loving yourself is the goal, but it's not perfect. Sometimes it's tolerating yourself. Sometimes when the voices around you are too loud. And trust me, you can look at my comments and DMs. There are plenty of them. The goal is continuing to stand up. So here I am.
Unfortunately, she's not going to be able to stand up too much longer. She's getting older, so we'll see how long that lasts. But the idea of loving yourself is fine. Even if you're morbidly obese, you can love yourself, but you can love yourself and also know that there is something you can do to help yourself. And it really has nothing to do with beauty standards or anything like that. You are hurting yourself by eating as much as you do. And then you're hurting yourself even more by refusing to take accountability for it. At the very least, just say, yeah, I eat way too much. But they won't. They will blame their weight gain or their weight in general on anything else. Genetics, thyroid issues, medications, whatever. But they got there from excessive calorie intake, period. You don't get this size by eating 1,500 calories a day. You just don't.
Not because I fit society's definition of a supermodel. Far from it. But because I refuse to let anyone define me. My body is an act of defiance, a declaration that I belong. If that little girl in Mississippi had seen someone like her on a magazine cover, maybe she wouldn't have felt so alone. So let's build a world where...
So think about it. This girl is not obese, you know? So that means she went from this, a pretty average looking kid, to this. And again, I understand kids can be mean and bullies and stuff like that. So when she was a kid, can't really blame her for whatever at that point. But there was a point in her life where she absolutely started taking control of her destiny and could have made changes so that she wouldn't have to try to change the world to fit in. And when I say fit in, I don't mean beauty-wise. I just mean like physically fit in spaces.
Every person feels seen, valued, and heard, which is easy to say, right? But how? Well, it starts by challenging the voices in our own head. Not only how we see ourselves, but how we see the world around us. So, let's do this. Close your eyes take a breath and think about the time that you last judged someone for how they show up in the world, about their clothes, their education, their appearance. When was the last time that you judged someone for being too much? Was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it this evening when you sat down to listen to my speech? Because if it was...
Were you being mean to me? You? I saw you looking at me, judging me. And listen, we all have stuff that we aren't happy about with ourselves. You know, we all have stuff that we can be judged for. And we all judge other people more than we should, for sure. But that's not really what this is about. This isn't about people just kind of judging people and whatever. This is about taking zero accountability for your own health, for your own decisions, and then placing the onus on society and everybody else for your decisions. And I'm not saying you have to lose weight, you don't. But actions have consequences. If you're going to eat as much as you clearly eat, the consequence will be you just don't fit into spaces. And you will be so far outside the norms of the size a human is supposed to be that you will have trouble finding things that fit. And people will look and go, wow, that's weird. That's unusual. I don't see that all the time. But again, we're not talking about just people who are a little overweight. Most people are used to seeing overweight people, especially in America. They're everywhere. But when you get to her size, yeah, you start getting looks and you start having trouble finding things that fit. When I was eating as much as I was eating, I was at the point where I needed a seatbelt extender for airplanes. I was not quite to the point where I needed another seat, but another few months and I might have been. And instead of saying, well, they need to change the way they do airplane seats, and instead of saying everybody else needs to change, I realized the responsibility is on me to fit into society, not the other way around.
When was the last time that you judged someone for being too much? Was it this evening when you sat down to listen to my speech? Because if it was recently, and let's be honest, it was for many of us, then we still have work to do. But it's wonderful work, work that will bring us closer together as a community. It's the work of reminding ourselves that we are all worthy. We can all build a future where every body, every ability, and every individual can exist. And no one, not strangers, online trolls.
And the problem with Tess and people like Tess is that she just says anybody who disagrees with me is an online troll. Now, there are mean people on the internet. You know, there are actual trolls, but Tess doesn't really differentiate between the actual trolls and people who just disagree with her. Anybody who's not just kissing her ass and saying she's perfect and everything's great is a troll.
Or an entire industry can take that away from us. Together, we can build a world where self-acceptance is the norm, where you don't have to apologize for being too much, where no one has to apologize.
And everybody dies of hypertension. I mean, that's what they're doing, is spreading harmful misinformation and basically encouraging people to just continue eating whatever you want.
And you know what? In the end, I like being too much because it has given me an entire
You guys, shut up.
beautiful life. So take up space.
Yeah, it's given her a beautiful life because she monetized it. She sold all this F Your Beauty Standards merch and things like that under the guise of altruism. All the while, she's just spreading this message that not only is it okay to be fat, but it's awesome. And I'm guessing a lot of it's rage bait. You know, she knows she will get a lot of engagement by saying the very things that she's saying in this TED Talk. But a big chunk of her money came from the F Your Beauty Standards thing, where she was like, you guys can fit into society just like me. That'll be $25, please.
Own it all and don't hold back. Trust me, the world will make room.
The world will make room. I mean, not really. I mean, they could maybe add another seat, you know, but that's the problem. That's her outlook, is the world will make room so I can just continue down this trajectory. So I don't know when this was recorded. It says 2024 here, but it was posted May 12th of this year. So I don't know, but she's around 40 years old, and at her size, it's going to start catching up to her pretty quickly. So she's convincing all these young people who still have a chance to change things and turn things around to just continue, just eat what you want. You know, not only is it okay to be morbidly obese, it's awesome. Look at me. And they're gonna eat themselves basically to death. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.